Okay, I have my page open. I've added a couple more areas of content. So when I look at this, in my previous video, I went in and controlled the width and height. And what I've done now is I've added some text down here where it says join now. And I've also added some information in my footer, just a simple information and that. And what I want to do now is I just want to apply a few styles that's going to affect the actual content of the page. I went in my previous videos. I went in and I adjusted the width and the div tags that control my layout. Now I'm going to specifically go in and format my elements I have on the page itself. So once I do that, it'll start making the text that you have here pop out. Like for example, hole in one. Let's center it. Let's go and make it. Let's increase the font size. Let's make it easier to read. Join now with black text down here is too hard to read with a green background. So let's change the text color to white. Let's make it larger. Let's center it. So there's a variety of things you can do to enhance the formatting of your styles. One of the things you want to do is just look up some styles that you can apply to the text. You can change the color of your text, you can change the background color of your text, you can go in and change the uppercase, you can make it all lowercase, you can change the spacing between your characters. There's so much that you can apply, and it's really essential to have a good book to reference because you're not going to memorize all the CSS styles out there. So you have to go and reference it. Okay, what changes my color? What changes my to make it text aligned? What makes it bold? So knowing that, you just go in, and there's some handouts that you can download from the websites that will help you out as well on that part. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my external style sheet that I created. And the key here, just remember when you're working with the external style sheet, the external style sheet I have here is I've created a folder where my pages are stored. I named it CSS. In that folder, I have a style sheet called style.css. This can be named as anything you want. The key here is that your pages have to be linked. And we did so by using a link tag, and we have to reference it. And the key thing in the quotation marks is you have to reference the folder name and the page name. If you don't, it won't be able to find it. So if I make a mistake, like for example, if I type in a capital S here, then most likely it won't find it as well because it can become case sensitive once you upload it to a web server. So that's why I like to keep things lowercase. I don't want to include spaces because that does cause issues. Then all you have to do is then you come over here in your style sheet and you start adding styles. So I'm going to come down here at the bottom. I'm just going to put it up here more at the top, just adding some extra room here. And what I want to do is I want to bring out certain areas of my styles. Okay, so the first one I want to do is I want to affect the H1 tag that's in my header section. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in, I'm going to say pound header space H1. This is going to be a specific way to apply a style. Now if we just say H1, anywhere it finds H1 tags, it will apply the style to all your H1 tags on your page. And in this case, it's only going to apply the style to the header section and the H1 tag. Now I want it to stand out some, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add and change some of the color to that. That is done by using the color rule. So as you can see here, I'm just going to type in the color colon found by the hexadecimal value. Very similar to what we did with background color. But when you want to change the text color, you don't say text color, you just type in color. Now let's save this real quick. And again, I like to see this as I go because I'll click on reload. Notice it goes to a lighter green color up here, not black. Now we're going to increase the font size. So I increase the font size by using the font hyphen size rule. And I'm going to put in a measurement of 100 pixels. Sometimes you'll use a different unit such as MEM. You'll learn more about that when you start learning about web responsive design. Now again, here's the beauty of this. I save it. I come in here and I reload. Now it gets larger. Now I'm going to make it stand out even more by centering this, and I use what we call the text hyphen align rule, and I say colon center. It has multiple values. You can do left, right, justify on that. And then the other thing I want to do, just to make it really stand out, a new version of CSS3 that came out a few years ago allows you to add text shadows to any text. And it's using the text hyphen shadow. Now the problem with this is that it has three attributes you have to choose. You have to basically tell it the offset from the left and the bottom, and then you have to tell it the color of your drop shadow. And there's a space in between each of these values. Okay, let's save this and let's look at this. Now it's centered, and then notice the nice bold kind of like drop shadow. Now I'm going to move the text down a little bit more, and to do that I'm just going to add what we call is a little extra space at the top of the text, and that is simply padding hyphen top 15 pixels. Now it's just going to add a little extra space up there, and watch what happens when I reload. See how it moves it down. So it's adding space up here right above the H, and it's forcing the text down on that part. So again, what I'm doing here is I'm applying a style to the H1 tag that controls the color, the font size. Now if you don't know your color scheme with your website, you can always go back in and change it, but keep in mind you want to make sure you're using the right color scheme for your document. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to have and I want to apply a style to join now the paragraph tag that's right in here. So again, I'm going to look which section it's in. Right now it's in the section called sub 2. So I'm going to say pound sub 2 space P. This is only going to affect the paragraph tags in that section. So what I want to do, you got to remember, it was very hard to read. It was very small. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to increase the font size. I'm going to make it text align center. Now when I save this, again, reload, I'm affecting this area right here. Now it is going to cause an issue here, and it's going to cause an issue with where your footer is because you're adding spacing here, and we'll take care of that. Because when you start working with a layout that's already there, if you start adding what we call block elements, it adds spacing above and below it, and so that can cause an issue with your layout. So you have to know that. You have to actually incorporate the inherent space that's already added to it. So that's something we have to watch out for on that part. Now to help us avoid that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a simple command here, simple styles. I'm going to say margin hyphen top 0 pixels, margin hyphen bottom 0 pixels. Okay, whenever you add a paragraph tag, it's a block element. It adds space above and below it. Same thing with the heading 1. So a lot of times what we want to do is we want to remove that space so it doesn't affect my layout. And as you see here, this is what causes it. Oops, let me save that. You can see what's causing it. So it's adding this extra space. Now when I click on a reload, you can see that the margin that we're working with is now going in and moving back up to where it should be. Now if you want to move the text down, then what I will do is I'm going to add padding top to this same command. So I'm going to force the text to move from the top of the box down. And again, when I do this, notice when I want to put certain sizes on the side, I just type in for margin, padding, or borders, I just say hyphen top, hyphen bottom, hyphen left, hyphen right. Okay. Now, again, I reload here, and it moved join down some. Now I'll just add some color into this. and in this case I'll make it white, and that will definitely help out on that part to make it easier to read. Now as you can see here, you can see join now is now easier to read. It's white text and all that good stuff. But right below that, you see that empty space? Why is that empty space there? That's because of this paragraph text that we added to my footer section. The footer section, what's causing this is that, as I mentioned before, the paragraph adds a space above it and below that. So it's going to cause an issue when it comes to going in and working with your layout. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing we did with with join now. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to basically remove that inherent space. Okay. So now I'm going to go in, I'm going to say pound footer P curly brace, and then I'm just going to copy and paste some of this margin that we have up here already. Okay. When I come in and reload, notice how that moves the footer right above, and it's now aligned with the sections right above it perfectly. And all I did here was I added the same command I did here, margin 0 for top and bottom. I'm basically removing that extra space that's there so that doesn't affect my layout. Now I can go in and work with it a little bit different. So I can start adding more styles to it. Like again, we've learned up here at the top, if you already have it, you might as well copy and paste it, So I'm going to do text align center. I'm going to use a certain color for this. Again, it's just color colon. Let's increase the font size up to utilize that space. So I'll use font size -size colon 22 pixels. So now let's take a look at this. See how it's white? Let's see what the text shadow is. Let's add a little text shadow to that, just like we did with the heading, so we kind of match what's going on there. So again, within the curly braces, I'm going to do a 1 pixel this time, not a 2 pixel to offset, because I'm using a smaller font size. Larger font size, you probably want to use a larger more than 2 or 3 pixels there. And using a different shadow color here real quick. Again, I'm going to reload. See, it adds a nice little shadow there. Now if you want to move it down, how are you going to move it down if you want it more in the center? Give you a second to think. And did you think about padding top? So I add a padding top, and this is where you have to I'm going to start with 25 pixels. If that's not the case, then I will go in and I'll change it. There you go, it's 25 pixels right there. So some fun stuff that we're doing here to work with applying styles to our page. So hopefully it's getting a really good sense on what we're doing when it comes to styles. Now sometimes you want to go in and you want certain things to stand out differently than the rest of the elements. So in here I have a strong tag added that's for the date. I'm going to add another strong tag up here, right here, that indicates the name of the golf lake. Now I can go in to my style sheet and I can just say strong, because there's no ID or anything like that. I can say strong and then I put a curly brace in, and I can apply a style that affects all my strong tags on every page. Maybe you want the color to be red, maybe you want the color to be green. So like in this case, I'm going to just add a color here for this, and let's take a look at what happens. Okay, so now I'm going to launch this back into Firefox, and notice how what we have here, this bold here, is in orange. Now I forgot to save the template here, so I'll launch it again so you can see both oranges. See how this is orange? Now this just helps you keep things consistent, so you can apply What this does is when we work with our styles, we can apply a style that affects everywhere it sees a strong tag, so you can keep it consistent. Sometimes you want to format a element separately. So maybe you want this strong tag up here to be a different color. So what we do is we introduce the class attribute. The class attribute allows us to go in and format a item separately from the rest of the group. What we do is in the opening tag we type in the name of the element followed by a space, and we type in class equals, then in quotation marks, just like the ID, we have to give it a name. Now make sure you don't name these classes the same name as the element name or an ID name. Give it something a different name. And I'm going to say format white. Now what I'm going to do is, let me save that real quick. If I want to apply a style to a class, I have to start off with a dot, not a hashtag. Because now I'm specifically identifying a class, I have to start off with a dot, followed by the name. It is case sensitive, so you want to type in, if it's a capital H or W there, I have to type it in, and then I'm going to follow in with the curly braces just like before. Now again, what's the benefit of working with classes? It allows us to specifically format areas on our page differently than other elements. We'll use this a lot with images because we can apply floats to our images. You'll learn more about that in week 5 if you're taking one of my classes. But it's something that classes really become an important aspect of working with when it comes to formatting. It's very similar to IDs, but they're two different things. IDs, when you name an ID, you can only uniquely use it once on that page. With a class, you can actually use it over and over. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to simply just change this color column. I'm going to do pound FFF for white. Watch this when I come over here. Now this is going to disappear. I did this on purpose. This will disappear because white on a white background just doesn't work. See? That's something you have to watch out for. A lot of people don't pay attention what the background color is. That's fine. So what's going to happen here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to simply come in and change this real quick. Now I got a little pink color. Now notice again I'm applying a class to the strong tag, and it's only affecting this area right here. That's what a class does on that part. So it's a good thing to start working with. Again, something to take a look at to get a better understanding. So if you have any questions on that, let me know. Because a class is an important aspect of formatting your page. Now lastly, I just want to make sure before I end with styles and so forth, I showed you how to use a class. One thing you're going to have to watch out for, especially when we get into week 4, is when you start adjusting space on the left and right hand side of your sections. Now you already kind of saw it earlier when I saw join now in our footer where it adds spaces above and below, so we had to actually go in and reduce it. So sometimes what you're going to have to do as well is, if you like, now this text is too close to the edge, so we need to add space to the left side so it doesn't line so closely to the edge. And a lot of times we do that with padding, and when we do with that padding, the problem is that could cause an issue with your layout. So that section here happens to be in column 2. So in column 2, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back up here and modify this, and I'm just going to say padding hyphen left side, and I'm going to do 20 pixels here. Now when I save this, I want you to see what happens to your page. Your text moves down here. Why? Well, because we increase spacing on the left side here, it can't fit inside this container that we set up. We have it set up a certain width, so it cannot fit in that. So it's going to push it down to the next available space. So how can you correct this? So anytime you add padding on the left or right hand side, margin on the left and right hand side, borders on the left and right hand side, you need to subtract that amount from the width. So what you have here is padding left is 20 pixels. So the width of column 2 now becomes 700. It's like a puzzle if you think about it that way. You have to fit exactly. So here it's like a glove. Now once I change it to 700, it fits. Now usually want to add padding on the right hand side as well, because if you don't, it's going to line up to the right edge. So if we do that, we'll say padding hyphen right. I'll do 10 pixels, but the problem with that's going to throw off my measurement. So I need to subtract 10 from 700, and now my width becomes 690. So I want you to keep that in the back of your mind. If you start adding padding, margins, or borders to the left and right hand side, you're going to have to subtract that from the width to make sure it fits exactly to your layout. So again, we'll look at that in a little more detail as we start setting up our pages on that. And let me just end this by doing a reload, and you'll see the space over here on the left hand side that moves around. So again, we're just going in and doing some adjustments for that. And again, it's something you start working with, and you're going to fine tune as you move from week to week.